Welcome to the Dr. Leadership Show, where we take a look at how you approach your work and personal life and how we can make the most out of both of them. A weekly get-together where we get real about self-improvement and development as we all make this not-so-easy journey through life. Our discussions will cover ideas and concepts from how to grow your career to how to lead your family towards prosperity and happiness. We don't pretend to know it all, and the doctor is the first to be vulnerable, discussing his own weaknesses, both past and present. This is about growing together and having some fun while we discuss what is happening in the crazy world we live in and how to make the most of it. Let's strive for awesome together. Let's get after it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Dr. Leadership Podcast. Hope you're having an awesome day. Happy Wednesday. Those of you that are members are listening to it a little bit before that. Excited for you to be on the membership list and getting content early. Hope everyone's having a great day. Beautiful weekend. It almost feels fallish. You know, we'd had that heat stuff coming through, and now a little bit calmer, a little bit closer to normal. Feels real nice. Heading into July 4th this weekend. Everyone be safe. Remember, long fuses and walk away. Everybody leave with all their digits is the goal here. Hey, couple of announcements. Got some incredible guests coming up on the Leadership Lounge, the Dr. Leadership Lounge. Dr. Chris Fuzzi, he is a behavior-based leadership coach, 28 years in police and public defense, those types of things. Very, very excited about having him on and listening to what he has to say. Has worked for a number of different organizations inside the FBI from a training standpoint. Going to be a great, great episode. And then Kim Addis, who is founder and president of Frame of Mind Coaching, going to talk about some of her things, her coaching style, what she offers for online coaching and critiquing, helping others grow. Can be relationship-based, can be business-based, can be all sorts of different things. And she's also got a new children's book coming out that her and her husband have been working on. So very excited to talk to her too. So I'll be spooling those up over the holiday weekend. I actually got a couple of times scheduled with them. Spent an hour getting the interview done some pre-calls with Kim, and getting ready to do it with Dr. Chris. Later this week. Very excited about that. Now, the way you get access at things that are awesome like this are to go out to our website at www.drleadershipresults.com, click on subscribe, enter up. It's $5 a month. You get membership access. You get content that isn't available to others. You get content that comes to you early, and you get the Leadership Lounge content right away. Also interaction with other members, etc. It's worth the investment, folks. I think that everybody, instead of getting 2 coffees today, the triple shot extra mocha, no cream, hot water, super spiffy sprinkles on top for $8.50. Why don't you get one of those today, and for the next month, invest in your development. Also, we can be reached at our email address, which is drleadershipresults@gmail.com. Give us some feedback. Got any ideas on content? Haven't had any ideas come across for a few weeks, so feed it back to us, and I'll see what I can put together. Always trying to please the crowd, so let me know how I can help you. So last week, the episode was on being consistent to help alleviate unforeseen challenges. Remember, it was the 2 bird stories, right? Sitting there, we had a robin flying through clear skies, and all of a sudden, boom, life hits him so hard it killed him, running into my front window. But the analogy was just tying into how when you think things are going great in life, just know that around the next bend, there's a speed bump of some sort. It's just how life works. And by being consistent, planning for the best, and trying to and hoping that a big negative impact doesn't hit you is the way to go through this life. And I wanted to take off on a great article, I'm going to touch on it in a minute, that kind of ties right into this. It was very impactful to me. I'm managing through change a lot in my own business world. Everything after COVID is still in turmoil. The economy is in the crapper. Doesn't matter what they say during debates or anything else. We've got people that are making $11,000, $12,000 less than it requires to hold their work or their life balance together, their food, their rent, all these types of things, as it did just 3 years ago. It continues to stay at 200% of the defined number that we're looking for from the Fed, so they can bring those rates down. People can't afford homes. People can't afford rent. It's time to take all these things seriously. And unfortunately, we don't have 2 great choices, but pick the one whose policies will impact those things and try to drop the emotions. But so last week's episode was on being consistent and maybe you can alleviate those unforeseen challenges. Now, remember, at any time, a big challenge can come out of nowhere, just bam, hit you right in the very beginning. The best way to fight off negative impacts is to be proactive, as we discussed on that other episode. But sometimes change is inevitable, as in taking on the impacts, like I said, of COVID, and some of these impacts will never go away and must be addressed for sure. But when driving change and transformation, we need to understand the psyche of our employees or our families or those around us and, of course, ourselves. Sooner or later, there's a diminishing return that starts to show up. Constant change is not a good way to drive growth for the simple reason you never get to see the end result of the last change since that was put in place, since leadership in many industries is constantly reacting versus letting a plan gestate to its final capabilities. We're very, very fickle. It's not moving fast enough. It still must not be right. Change it again. Fire them. Hire them. Have those people handle it. Don't let these people handle it. Blow it up, blow it up, blow it up. And you can't reach the top notch of execution without some time running the new plays. I've said this before. There's a time when you quit drawing plays in the dirt and you go out and you work on execution. In today's world, leaders need to understand what is happening psychologically to your teams and start to realize they are using change to reach a desired state when all they really need to happen is to give the plays some time to develop. They keep putting a new play in, putting a new play in, putting a new play in. All the high-level sports teams have a game plan and stick through it. They will make some slight adjustments at halftime. Going to do a different cover on that receiver that's caught 3 balls in a row. Going to change up the defensive lineman, right guard moving to left guard because the left guard can't seem to handle their left guard. So little adjustments like that are one thing, but this wholesale change that's going on in the space right now is very, very tough. So the episode title is Without Consistency, we are rewriting the psychological contract with our employees. Now, what in the hell does the doctor mean by psychological contract? Let me tell you. So, Harvard Business Review has a fabulous article this month around this concept. And this month it's written by Nadia, and I apologize, Nadia. There's too many letters in a row here, but I think it's Zehemhira. And I know I didn't do that justice. But Nadia, we're going to call her for the doctor. Her article is called Constant Change is Rewriting the Psychological Contract with Employees. And it covers some great feedback from several industries going through transformation. Her first sentence resonated with me, and it is this, quote, "Let's face it, we are massively failing at change." Wow, massively and failing right next to each other. That means it ain't going good. So her input on this is very direct, and the first thing she does, she points out research from Gartner Group, and this was published in May of this year, in their study of the willingness of employees to support enterprise change. Now, this can be in your personal life, how you're trying to make changes happen at home. Sometimes you ask too much of the kids too soon, the old baby steps mentality. This can be about in your relationship, you both need to change this and that. You aren't going to change people's habits and things right away. You got to let these things percolate or gestate, as I said earlier. So in their study, the willingness of employees to support enterprise change, it collapsed to under half, or only 43% in 2022 versus a 74% willingness in 2016. So let me repeat that. Their latest data is from 2022, and it said that they have employees that support enterprise change. 43% of employees support that in 2022. That was 74% had a willingness to support in 2016. And we know that it's not gotten any better in 23 or 24. I bet it's 30% now supporting it, just from my own experience in my own organization. Supported in tandem by a Gallup poll, which called, quote, State of the Workforce 2024, that came out this month here in June, and it highlights incredible frustration. Listen to these stats. It states that while 23% of employees are thriving and are fully engaged at work, those are the ones we want. That's the outcome we're looking for. 23% of employees are thriving and are fully engaged at work. A massive 62% of employees are quiet quitting and employed but disengaged. So that means they're showing up, clocking in, clocking out, man. No desire to go hard. Now, this next piece of data is earth-shattering in my mind. 15% of employees are loudly quitting. That means they're directly harming the organization and undercutting its goals and opposing its leaders. You know what that means? People are pissed. They're just tired of this disarray. So if you take the 15% that are actively pissed and the 62% that are barely showing up, you got 77% of your staff that doesn't like what's going on. You aren't going to transform anything with 77% of your staff as headwinds. What are you going to do, fire 77% of your staff? I've seen some things as of late where some people think that might be the way to go. I don't think that's the way to go. The article's author, Nadia, again, because I can't pronounce her last name, sorry, Nadia, states over the last 2 years in interacting with, and she interacted with a bunch of different industries, these brutal statistics are showing the impact coming from change. Companies need to revisit their psychological contracts with employees. And what does that mean? What does my title mean? Psychological contract. Well, she goes on to explain it by discussing how the topic was originally introduced by Chris Argyris, can't read my own note here, and further defined by Denise Rousseau. A psychological contract is usually defined as, write it down, folks, an unwritten set of expectations between the employee and the employer. It includes informal arrangements, right? Mutual beliefs, common ground, and perceptions between the two parties. Right? I mean, when you're sitting there, it's like, yeah, I dig what the company is trying to do. Or I see this as a value to the community or to the business world or whatever. You're looking for that psychological buy-in. You're looking for, there's another term, belief. You're looking for belief. Common ground and perceptions between the two parties. As an unofficial contract between, these two, the psychological contract at the core highlights, here's what they said in the article, the fairness or balance, quote unquote, perceived by the employee around what they put into the job and how they are treated in return. So there's an old saying, the customer's perception is our reality. The employee's perception is your company's reality. You can do as many surveys as you want, and you can get online and you can say, we're really doing great things and we're so happy for all of you for going along for the ride. But if the people are looking at you and crying bullshit, and hey, you 3 or 4 leaders have made 5 changes in 6 years and none of them have worked, maybe you're not the right leader. It's going to be hard to get these people on to believing that fairness or balance is being what you're leading with and how they're being treated. When it came to change, the status quo psychological deal is reflected in these statements from the author's clients. So they went out and asked, how are you feeling? Now these hit me right between the eyes. The first one says, we are all in this, one here. Sorry, my own notes here. Everyone is feeling this next statement. A client stated in their article, you asked us to do this big push and change pretty much everything. We did it. So now why don't you just leave us alone? That's what I said earlier. Sometimes you got to let it gestate. Sometimes you got to let it percolate. Sometimes you got to let it ripen. You got to let the execution come. We did it, so now why don't you leave us alone? That's a scary attribute that your staff is holding on to or driving with if you're trying to transform. The second one wasn't much better. When the last big transformation project was introduced, I supported it. But I can't waste my time on all this change all the time. I have work to do. Results to achieve. See the commonality there? We changed. Let's get used to running the new offense, man. We don't go in at the end of the first quarter and go, it's not working. Change it all again. Get rid of those people. Those people are no good. You mean the people that were 200% of plan 2 years ago? Those people are no good? Maybe it's disarray. Maybe it's a lack of confidence. Maybe it's tumultuous around them. Maybe it's a loss in belief in their leadership because the leaders aren't showing that they believe in the changes they've instilled because they keep jumping to more change. Think about it. Number 3 quote from this article, and lots of people are feeling this one. Our executives are out of their depth and out of touch. They keep changing everything all the time. When will things finally normalize? And that doesn't mean go back to normal or go back to the past. That person, I read that comment several times going, what are they trying to say here? All they're looking for is consistency. Let's hold this flight path, this flight pattern for a little bit of time and see what happens. It's like when you're trying to change how a child is acting. You don't go in and just say, Jimmy, you're not going to do that any longer, and you think it's going to work. You've got to give the child time to adapt to what you're asking of them. Be clear and defined on what you're asking of them, but then time is needed. They grow up over time. They develop themselves. All the chemicals in the body are for the development through these issues they face when they're younger. Let it have time to normalize out. The net is employees will support a big change within their healthy psychological contract, but in exchange, as leaders and as a company, as a parent, you need to leave them alone for a few years. Not every damn year or damn quarter does it require wholesale change again, blowing it up. You got to remember this as a leader inside an organization, specifically talking about a sales organization here. If you blow up, go to market, and I'll not even use blow up. If you radically change or adapt or transform your go-to-market and then you run it, you got to remember you've lost a quarter of the year's execution because it takes 90 days just to get your systems lined up. In my company's case, sometimes it takes longer than that. Got to get CRMs realigned. You got to get comp plans adjusted. You got to do all these things that sellers hate. You keep impacting the psychological contract with things your employees hate. How do you expect it to go well? I got an idea. Let's hit them on the thumb again. That'll make them happy. Wait a second. That didn't. Put your other thumb up there. We're going to try it again 90 days down the road. This knee-jerk approach to leadership is nothing more than just poor leadership. The old psychological contract reflected decades of economic reality when the world was relatively predictable. We were flying along pretty well after the last major impact on the economy in 2008, 9, and 10. Employees loved being loyal. They loved staying with one company their entire lives. Look at me. I'm 30 years here. I'm 35 in the industry. I've been 30 years at my employer. Tech moves slower. We could milk the same business model as a reliable, deliverer of results, driving revenues, profitability, whatever you're measuring, operating income, marginal profit, whatever you want to measure there. Change was rare. And when it happened, it was a project, and you knew the approach was allowed to gestate and grow. Now, go to today, and a report by the Accenture Group with their Pulse of Change Index shows that the rate of change affecting business has risen by 183% since 2019, and by 33% in the last year alone. So 183% in 5 years, that's 36% a year. It's 33% this last year. It ain't slowing down. Continuous reinvention is killing the psyche of our employees, is killing our psyche as individual contributors or mid-level leaders, or even myself as an executive in the organization. It is very tough for me to continuously stand on the pulpit and tell people this is how we're going to do it this month. Follow me. I think I've done a pretty good job creating followership over the years. It's getting challenging for me. And my industry is no different. I'm not speaking about my company specifically here. I'm speaking about a lot of companies. My industry is going through this, though. There's no doubt. In 2022, 20% of organizations were reinventing themselves every 12 months or less in the same business result year. Launch something Q1, end of Q1. We didn't overachieve plan. Oh my God, change it all. Quarter 2, we didn't achieve plan. Change it all. Quarter 3, we didn't achieve plan. Change it all. Fire some more people. Eliminate positions. We got to make our bottom line number. Never thinking about how you're screwing up what's going into the top of the funnel that creates the bottom line number. No consistency. You don't allow your salespeople to develop relationships. You're breaking up the best relationships because you're looking at a damn cell on the bottom. You got to understand what makes that cell spit out. That's why you go to the field. They're still saying 45% of change are radical and not adjustments too. So we've entered an era of managing turbulence through continuous reinvention. And in my opinion, this is the doctor speaking now, this is killing. It's killing in these situations. This is killing it by just tenfold what we could be doing if we would allow it to execute. It's killing the buy-in. We need to execute. Now, we need to be willing to change as the world moves forward. But my overall take, the doctor's take here, is you don't know the end result if you don't give time for results to generate by letting the last change take root. Think of it from an agricultural or flower standpoint. Everybody plants their pots in the spring. You put the seeds or the bulbs down. Let's use bulbs as an instance. I planted 150, 200 bulbs along my back fence line last fall. October, put them in. Look out there every day. All of October, nothing happens. November, nothing happens. December, nothing happens. January, they aren't coming up through the snow. February, they aren't coming up. You know why? They're building momentum. Their energy is absorbing. They're getting the moisture. They're getting the nutrients for the change to have an outcome. All of a sudden, I look out April. I got plants coming out of the ground. Results. Because I let the gestation period happen. I let the development happen. You got to let this stuff take root, folks. You got to let this stuff have some time to percolate. You got to let the coffee percolate, man. Otherwise, you just got some hot water. And your company's going to be in hot water if you continuously throw change at them without letting things root. One way to improve change results is also to go back to our conversation a few weeks ago on manage from the middle. Remember that episode? Get the field engaged to let you know what is working or moving the needle in a positive direction. Quit being the leader that knows it all. I've read a number of great articles and I've talked to 2 customers in the last year, and this is what we're going to do. Now I got an idea. Why don't you reach down into the middle of the organization, operationally, that are facing this every single day, and bring them up and say, what is causing headwinds? And it's a safe space. And you bring people from all layers because everybody has different perspectives. Maybe it's your coverage model. Maybe your compensation plan has been changed so much that you aren't motivating people. Calm drives behavior. I don't care what you say. Maybe you're treating people the same that have very different objectives. Maybe you're rolling out the same comp plan to a person that has to put up $7 million in their territory and paying somebody that does $1.5 million in their territory the same numbers because you're using some stupid thing that your comp team was taught at one time. You got to get the middle up engaged in change. And when you don't like the answers as executives and senior leaders, tough. You got to have the managerial courage to take a shot across the bow at you and to be humble enough to realize I'm not doing it right. You got to make positive movements by incorporating those that are playing the game, fighting the battle, living the war. They know. Executive leaders many times are leading to a sell on that P&L, as I said before, versus understanding the consistency for a few years will improve all those numbers that make up that. Maybe it's an SG&A sell. Maybe someone's managing to a percentage of revenue to earnings or earnings to revenue percent. Are we making enough money on how much revenue we're putting up there? Well, no, we got to cut some costs. Well, okay, but if you cut costs and it causes a lowering of revenue, the percentage isn't going to improve because the numerator has changed because you now have lower revenue performance. So start thinking about how to drive growth up top of the P&L instead of at the bottom of the P&L. If you concentrate on the top and execute and go to market and solution selling and consultative approaches and empower the salespeople with consistency and give them all the tools they need and to give operational people the ability to correct and give a great customer experience, get out of the damn way and watch the growth happen. As leaders, share the data and ask for feedback. Engage the soldiers in how to win the war. Remember, the reason Vietnam didn't go swimmingly for us is that the ability to engage, to drop bombs, to fight was being controlled in the United States in D.C. at the Pentagon. Every decision was being phoned in. Hey, I see a whole lot of tanks coming down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, permission to bomb them. Where are you? Well, I'm slightly north of the border. No, you're not supposed to be up there. It's a war. Take them out. Once we started to empower the field, think Desert Storm, Gulf War I, Gulf War II. We wiped the third and fourth strongest armies on the planet off the grid in a matter of days because we empowered the field teams to make things happen. Give them time to execute. Don't look at the first quarter and under this new approach and think it needs redone. Let the recipe marinate. You got to give these things time. Let the recipe marinate. Awesome is there. Let your people be awesome. Quit throwing curveballs every pitch. Give them something to hit. Consistency. Give them a psychiatric contract that they believe in. Get them back in the boat with you mentally. Right now, 77% aren't happy and 22% of them are friggin' pissed. Better correct it, or the change that'll happen is we as leaders will be out of jobs. So go out, empower your people, listen from the middle, be consistent, and the awesome will happen. Talk next week.